then we move on to our second album, which is Champion by Pom Poko, which was my choice. So yeah, Norwegian band. Came across them via End of the Road. My, every episode reference to that fantastic festival, and that I spoke about CMAT earlier in the podcast, and her performance being one of the very, very best I've seen over the 5 years which I've been to the festival. Well, Pom Poko, having heard a few of their songs and thought they definitely sound interesting, I want to see them live. Their performance was one of those moments as well, where you go because you have a bit of an interest in the band, and then you watch and you just are, just completely taken with it. They were on like really late as well, so I could have just gone elsewhere at that point. It was like a midday kind of performance, but the virtuosic musicianship was just brilliant. So they're kind of jazz trained musicians. They take that into a bit of a different approach in what they do with their kind of indie rock. They've had one album previously, I believe, but Wikipedia will dictate whether I'm wrong or right on this one. I know two albums before Champion. Apologies. So in which case, I've only heard one of their albums prior to this third album, Champion, and profuse apologies to Pom Poko. And that album off the back of the performance live, it didn't quite convey their talents in one package, basically. So, kind of measured that enthusiasm from seeing them at the live show, and would see them live if they're playing anywhere. And Kiley informed us before the recording they're doing a UK tour. So I think straight after this call we'll we'll sort of see whether that might be one to and would recommend to anyone else listening that they are a fantastic live band to see. So what are they going to do here with this third record? Well, it's not a departure from what they've done before. There's that kind of frenetic pace with the rhythm section of the guitars. The sort of thinking behind the songs is quite everyday, I suppose, but it's finding those moments within the everyday which they're really bringing to life in lots of different emotions through the music, and there's a lot going on here, and the more I listened to it, the more I really got into it. And for me, I've now found that album from the band which justifies that feeling of seeing them live. And looking through all the tracks, there's not really a bad one in there. Possibly the final one was the only one I found a little bit slightly middle of the road, but the rest are just full throttle. One moment measured the next moment, but no less interesting for it. And the front woman here, I'm gonna absolutely murder this, but Ragnhild Fangel, really enjoyed her performances. She can do it on the loud rock song. She can also do it on those moments where they just sort of take a step back and take a moment to explore how they're feeling in a slightly slower way. But yeah, in terms of the highlights here, I think My Family and Champion, two of the singles, really stand out. I loved My Family. That was actually the one which pushed me into choosing them. I wasn't really sure who to choose in August. I knew Fontaines would be picked. I think they were picked actually before we chose our ones. So tried a few different sort of options, and then when I heard My Family, I thought, you know what, let's give them another go. So that one's just this freewheeling guitar. It's their kind of jazz rock kind of USP at its most cohesive, I would say. Champion's one of their slower ones, but I just find it quite enchanting with the pluck strings in there. It's a bit about growing up. There's a lot about family and growing up, and just things which I think anyone can find relatable in the lyrics. And then the other one I would just pick out as one of the main highlights is Big Life as well. really enjoy the heavy bass within it. The change up in the chorus from "This life is a beehive" to "This life is a big life." The weight of "Big Days" is really ominous within the track, and it's kind of that light and dark, I suppose, or at least heaviness and lightness being conveyed in a really cool package. So this one, just absolute joy. To be honest, I wouldn't say it's one of those albums which is going to change the world in any way, but it's one I would happily keep going back to, and I really feel that they've just found a kind of level where it's strong throughout, and yeah, I'm excited to kind of hopefully see them sort of maintain that, and yeah, maybe pick up a bit more of an audience, which I feel they deserve. So that's me. I'm getting a lot of nods from Karl, so I'm gonna have to go to you next.
No, I mean, in my ignorance, when you first mentioned Pom Poko, I was like, does he mean Don Broco? And it was he's just getting the name wrong. But no, yeah, a band that I didn't know before this month, and it's still my favorite thing about doing this with you guys, is you put me onto some great bands. I'm glad to have Pom Poko firmly on my radar. Didn't really know what to expect. I hadn't listened to those singles kind of prior to the album coming out, but yeah, what I found was just a really solid little indie record. Keeps it short and sweet, doesn't overstay its welcome, and like you say, Andrew, there's just some really fun songs on here. That opening trio you highlighted, I think it starts the record with a bang. Is a great story, just a super catchy opener, great fuzzy riffs, and those high-pitched, like sweet high-pitched vocals from is it Ranghild, you said?
Don't ask me.
Yeah.
I've got it on here.
Yeah, we'll go with that.
Ranghild, yeah.
We're all going to start taking Norwegian on Duolingo so we can get
yeah. We'll have to make these notes beforehand how to pronounce. But yeah, really, really great vocals throughout. And like you say, My Family, similar story. And then we get Champion with that fantastic bass line, just a really super catchy melody, and just one of those tracks that went straight into the best songs list. Just really gets under your skin, gets into your ears. Just a really catchy little tune. And then those three were definitely the highlights for me. We've got some other great moments too. Go, which I think was one that you didn't mention, Andrew, but that was a big fan of that one. Just a fantastic pace to it. Got those like rapid fire stuttering riffs, excellent drum work on that song as well. Never Saw It Coming straight after. I think that one's great too. And then I did actually like one of the ones that you didn't, which was the Fumble, and was it Bell as well, which was like those two tracks I found to be quite a nice change of pace from the franticness. A Fumble as well, I think, just like a really gentle way to close out the record. Love those cooing vocals and that like little synth line that kind of runs up in the background as well. And then Bell reminded me a bit of American football with the guitar work. Let's see if you got that one as well, Kiley. But obviously, always a big plus in my book if the tuning sounds slightly like, the guys from American football. So really enjoyed this one. I think if I'm being picky, I'd say on occasion I listened to this probably at the wrong time, and like sometimes those harsh like static guitars, depending if you listen to them in the wrong mood, they can be slightly grating. But I think it's it's a record for a certain time and place for sure. I like I say, I tried listening to it while working a couple of times and found it wasn't the one. But overall, just a really solid record, and getting that right moment, just an absolute blast to listen to. And I'm intrigued now. I'm going to go research some more Norwegian bands and see what else I'm missing.
Good stuff. So Carly, are you also on board with Champion?
Yeah, very, very much so. And like on the note that you're leaving off on, Karl, there, that obviously my exposure to Norwegian bands are, it's very limited. But one that I was just looking at it yesterday, and it seems like maybe they put out one record and they're done. But Steve Buscemi's "Dreamy Eyes," if you didn't hear that record from, I want to say 2021, great indie pop record from Norway. And then
the
the
fantastic band name as well.
Yeah, it just is. I ordered that record, and I remember, they shipped it directly, and it just took like, I feel like a month or something to get here. But yeah, between that and then the other Norwegian album that I was really into the last 5 years was Dialogue by Vujo and Ollie Burger Beats, which is a hip hop record. But beyond that, no knowledge of what's going on in Norway right now. And yeah, thanks, Andrew. This was a perfect August record. Fast paced, upbeat. I loved a lot of the lyrics, especially about family difficulties and, this is my family. We won't get into it, but that was great. Reminds me, a little bit of the first Always record. Reminds me a lot of the Beths. Her voice reminds me of Elizabeth Stokes. Yeah, one of those records that I really, really enjoy and loved, and I don't have many notes on it. It's just one that I've been playing over and over, and it's like, hell yeah, this is a good time. I really enjoyed it. It's a good one.
I hope they play in America.
Yeah, sounds expensive.
Yeah, it's I mean, they're doing Europe, I suppose, but yeah, and looking at like the monthly listens, they're still, it's sort of the 5 figures mark. So we'll see if they can grab a few more followers. But if anyone's listening to this and fancies some interesting Norwegian music, then yeah, give it a go. So we've had
give us some more suggestions.
I mean, they're the only band from Norway I know of. I was actually thinking of this band called Zebra, but I think they're Sweden. So and apologies for that. Just sort of chucking them into the Scandinavian bucket there.